Okay, I did the recording on cloud.
Okay, great.
So as
Nice.
I was going to say, you will receive, until you do not see the slides, you will receive them. And but you know, I can start speaking on the items that we will present as they are, you know, general aspect and information that can also, you know, be said while speaking. As I said at the beginning, this is you know, a presentation that we do as owaspwia, and in the line of our continuous, you know, sharing of information and of knowledge among our group and for all the participants. On top of this, we are organizing different meetup connected with the Cybersecurity Month 2019. That is October, so we are within the Cybersecurity Month that is called in this way worldwide. So there are many initiatives going on in Europe, in USA, in Canada, you know, around the world, in creation of awareness on the cybersecurity. And we decided, you know, to give some meetup on this in this line. This one is on privacy. Generally speaking, for the European law, it's the General Data Protection Regulation, shortly named GDPR. As it is important to know, and you will see also on the slides, that this we arrived at a single law from all the European countries on the 25th of May 2018, so last year, because before there are some you know, guidelines, protection directives, local amendments and laws, but there was not a unified law for all the European countries. While when GDPR was released, it was a law, the same law that was going to be applied in all European countries. And it's also important to notice that this effort done at the European level really pushed lots of other countries, not Europe, to move and to find laws and local regulation to be in line with privacy. And we will see also how and where it happened. Just to be to share some information and keywords that are important in order to understand some of the underlying principles in GDPR. It's important that you take care of the fact that there is a strong push on the applicability, so how this law is applied. There is a strong push also on the idea to have it at the early stage of the design of a new service. So this is called the data protection by design, which means that you have to start your new service defining clearly how you will protect the data that you will manage. And on top of this, you will have to start with a risk assessment. This is quite important because generally when we look at this type of initiatives, you know, they are more focused on what you will do once the service is released, or when the product is in place, or when the data are collected and so on. What the lawyers, and the law ask for is that you have to clearly define the risks in managing the information that you collect for the different citizens. You have to design your application in line with the risk that you analyzed and you found in order to avoid them, and to follow it and to check it. Another important aspect that was created from this law is the creation of a new professionality that is the data protection officer. The DPO is something that in almost most of the companies that deal with personal data has to be appointed, because it goes, you know, for big companies, but also for smaller ones that anyway deals with information that are quite important and so on. The last point, which is very, very important, and we will see how it's really also applied, you know, is the transparencies in data breaches. If a company has a breach in their information system, or they lose data or they use data in improper, not proper way, they have it to declare it to the government, to the police, or whatever, almost immediately. They have just few days in order to declare it. So there are these aspects that are really, really important. First of all, we also had to think that the importance connected with the geography. Before this GDPR, the international companies could always claim that they were placed outside Europe, and therefore they follow the laws that was in another country that could be less strict than the European one. With GDPR, there is no more, you know, this possibility, because you have to apply the European law, even if your company is located in USA, Ireland, you know, somewhere that is not European, Fiji, or, you know, whatever, because what applies is where the citizens, the data you collect, and the citizens, the people are located. So if they are in Europe, even if you collect the information on European citizens, you had to apply the GDPR, even if you do not have even a site in Europe. You know, you just have web services or whatever. The other aspect is also connected with this geography and so on, is the one-stop shop, which means that you had to clearly define in which European countries you will accept, you know, to deal with the data European citizen. You can define that it's in France, in Italy, in Germany, wherever, but you have to define in which countries are you have the right to manage the data. Again, also if you do not have a subsidiary, you know, in Europe. This is really, really important. And on top of this, the other aspect that is quite important is that penalties and fines have been put in place, and they are very, very high. We will see it that it's 4% of the overall revenue of a company. That is not just the revenue of that services, or the revenue in that country, or the revenue in Europe, but the overall revenue of the company. In the slide that you will receive, because I think you still do not see them, you will, yes, you see them now. Is it, am I right? Okay, see Vandana that said that I can control her screen. So, okay.
Okay, yeah, I can see it.
Sorry, thank you. So I was speaking on this slide now. So I go to the next one. In the slide that you will receive, you will find next one. I don't see how to. I cannot see the other slide. No. Vandana, Vandi, are you connected? Do you hear me? Okay, I see again this. Do you hear me? Oh, I lost. Hi, do you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, Jessica,
Very
see you.
low.
I see. So can Vandi, can you move the slides, because it seems they are very slow on my side, so I cannot move. Let's try this. Okay. I see that you are commenting that it's very low. I will try to speak a little bit louder. I see the message now. My problem is that I'm trying to move the slides. Okay. Okay, thank you. I don't know if it's Vandana that is moving them or it's me. You will find in the slide that I will share, that you will see all the information, you know, all the definition that are used within GDPR. What is considered personal data? Who is the subject that deals with the personal data? So the, you know, and owns the information. Okay, here it is. It's very, very slow, it seems, because I'm using, okay. Also the type of personal data, that is, you know, general information, my name, my address, telephone number, and so on, are considered personal data. But there are some very important data that are, for example, information on your genetic data, or biometric data, or information on your health. So if you go to an hospital or to a doctor and they get information on your health, they are really strongly protected and should not be given to anyone unless you give your official authorization and clear authorization on the usage of your information. So this is also important because the law make differences according to the type of information that you manage. I would like to go to the next one. Okay. I'm sorry for everybody connected, but it's really, really slow. So it's, okay. One particular set of data are the sensitive data, that are those connected with political opinions, religion, as I said, health or mental conditions, your sexual interest, and so on. So again, there is a specific action and a specific section of the law that deals with this information as well. I would like now to move as the time is running. I would like to move to anyway, what is important to consider, and you will find this definition in your in the slides that you will receive. So I just put the keywords here because whenever you will read on internet or somewhere some of these keywords, you will immediately put them in the right position connected with the GDPR, and you will be able to understand how they apply to this law. What I did and what I would like to be able to go is really what happened after. You know, we saw that in May last year the law was issued. There was lots of you know, actions and let's say reaction to this law, because it's really strong in terms of needs that the company has to follow. But it's also important to notice that it was really applied, which means that since May last year, we have fines that have been given to important companies for the you know, not being in line with the law requirements. One of the biggest one is the one given, and it is in the slide. Sorry, but it's very slow, and so I'm speaking without the slide on it now. One was given from, for example, for Google in France, that it was a fine of 15 million euro. And the reason was that, for example, the people was not able to, okay. Vandana, can you go on? Perhaps for you it's faster to change slides. Can you? I do not hear you, so no. Okay. If you go on, it's better. We can go. Anyway, as I said, yes, please go on, because of this, you know, time. These are definitions that I wanted to give to everybody, because also they need to cover the information once you manage them. Okay. So here, great. Here we are. So, even if it seems sometimes that the privacy law, it's too strict, it's too heavy and so on, it has to be applied. It's a law. So there is no change in the law since May last year, and fines have been issued. So one of these, for example, was given in France to Google, because they didn't clearly define why the information they were collecting the information. So they you know, were against one of the item of the law, that is the user the citizen should be clearly informed of the usage, where you put, who uses the information you give them, and on top of this also you should collect only the information needed to give the service to the citizen. So you cannot, if I have to change my telephone number, for example, they just ask me my name, address, and so on. They cannot ask me also information on my family, where my preference is in traveling, and so on. They just have to ask me the information for the service I'm asking for. So Google didn't clearly define this. And on top of this, there is also another aspect, that is the citizen, the person, has to clearly understand how to change his privacy requirements. And you should not go one page after the other, then after the other, then after the other, to you know, understand what is going on. And in this case, for example, Google said, I wrote clearly the usage of the data, but there were more, you know, the button with more options to change. So this was not accepted from the privacy authority in France. And so they put a fine on Google. You can, okay. I see that you gave me again the control, but it doesn't, it's too slow on my side, Vandi. Please, can you manage it? And I will tell you when to change. Okay, a 50 million euros fine for this. That seems a lot, but it's not, because the GDPR can write to 4% of the total annual worldwide turnover of the previous year, you know, so you can imagine the number that Google had to pay in case they applied completely this law. Other fines, but this is not the only one that was given in Europe. We had others that you will see and you will find in the presentation. Given, for example, to other type of services given, like something like Facebook. There was a system like Facebook, and they lost the information of their users, and again they got a very high fine. Another aspect, again, you will find all of them in the slides, so I'm just going through them. You will also find there was also a fine for a doctor who used the information of the patient, the name of the patient, to okay. Here we are. I'm moving on my screen now. And because he gave this information to a political party to send, publicity, advertising, marketing to the people of this doctor. Another one, for example, was given in Austria, and that was a small one. It was 4,000 euro, but to a company that used video surveillance for, his security, for the need of their building, but the camera were not put well, so they also take video of people working outside the building of the company. And there were no, advertisement or information, special signatures that they were using these images. So they also got a fine. This is just to show you, there are more than one. In Portugal, another one, an hospital lost the data and they had a 400,000 euro fine, Another one was in Polish. Again, they lost the information and they were accused that they were not able to correctly protect the data. And on top of this, also the authority, the privacy authority, check if there is the right collaboration from the company once these type of breaches happen. So they can be they can give a fine lower if the organization cooperates in order to find where the loss was. Also in Italy, of course, there were some fines. One was for an application used from a political party. And also, this is the one on the doctor, so, which, as you can see, this is something that is really moving, is going to be applied at the European level. What is important to know, what I was saying at the beginning, is that this strong position of the European on the usage of the data, of the people data, really moved all the other countries, because all the companies, even if located in other countries, had to be in line with this. So what they did, if you see in one of the slides, that is the 26 on my presentation, there are many countries that are already moved to this to apply a privacy law. They have privacy law that are similar, or in some way very near to the European one. I took this information from Wikipedia, so you can find it. You will find the link and the information. But there are countries, like also Brazil, Canada, China, Fiji, of course, all the European countries, but Ireland, Jamaica, and so on, that have a privacy law, while there are other countries that do not have it. So this is something that I do think that will move anyway. Because, for example, there are countries, I think I made this example in one of my previous presentations, like Lebanon, that doesn't have privacy law, but, for example, has a very strong law on loss of information on banking account. So, you know, sometimes it changes. Another country that is moving, you know, in this area is the United States. I also found a very nice table, you know, up to date that you will find again with the link where I found it on the situation of the privacy law in USA, because there are lots of movement and countries already put in place, like California, Maine, you know, Nevada, already put in place a strong privacy law in order to be in line with the European ones, while there are other states that are not ready yet. They are working on it. I know this also because there are some other, let's say, standardization groups, like, for example, the Cloud Security Alliance, that are working in order to align their rules and so on, also on privacy aspects. So it means that it's something that is really spreading all over the world. When moving to India, here again in the presentation I put a couple of links. What comes out is that there is not yet a law, you know, a specific law that covers all the aspects that we have in Europe, but it's something that where lots of, you know, the government, the groups of interest and so on are pushing to move in that area because of the business needs. You know, if you are an India-based company and you had to work in Europe, you had to be in line with this type of law. So again, as I was saying at the beginning, the privacy law, the GDPR, was a very strong effort in Europe, but it's really pushing all the other countries. So in the next slides, you will find some of the points I already mentioned, like the territorial, the need that you had to be in line, you know, wherever you are, the obligations and responsibility, and the idea that you had to think about privacy since the beginning of your the design or the thinking of your service, and you had to do a clear risk analysis, as I mentioned at the beginning of my speech. And the fact that you have, once you know about a breach on and you lose the information, or you lose your data, you had to declare it to your authority, you know, country authority on data protection within 72 hours. That is not, of course, easy, because sometimes we know that some breaches can happen, and perhaps the company will know it later. But again, here it's important all the different aspects, because if you put in place the risk analysis, you manage the information, you use cryptography to protect your information, you clearly give evidence to the people using your services on how you will manage the information and so on. Again, you can show that you did all the best you could do in order not to lose the data. But of course, you can always be, you know, attacked from someone outside, and we know it very well that this is always possible. The other aspect, as I mentioned, is connected. Oh. Do you hear me? I lost you. Okay. I think
I hear you.
Okay, here you are. It's okay. Thank you, because I thought I lost the connection. Again, as I said, there is the DPO, that is the person responsible for the usage of the information, that is the interaction also with the authority, but he is not the only one, which means that within an organization, you cannot just say, okay, I have the data protection officer, so everything is under his control. You can go and ask him, because each person dealing with personal information is someone that has to be trained, informed, and so on GDPR. So it's not just a matter of the head of something, you know, to manage, to be the person that can be seen as the source of the fault if something happened. I already told you about the one-stop shop, so you have to define the country where you want to put, you know, your you want to deal with the local authority on privacy. You have to get explicit consensus and authorization on dealing with the data. As I told you before, Google didn't, you know, did it, but did it in different pages of a site, and it was not enough. So just to show you how important this is. The last items also connected with this, it's the right to cancel your information. We know that this is not easy, because, you know, once you give some information in internet, what will happen, we do not know. But if we do apply the law, which means that I give my information to this company and it clearly knows where my data go and what they do with it, it could be done, because they have the information I give them really under control, so they are not spread or sold outside. And of course, the possibility to transmit those data to another organization if I agree. The fines I already told you, which is quite, you know, an aspect that is quite important. And that's all. I finished my presentation. As I said, I will give it, send the slides, and Vandana already has them, so we can share them. And just let me know if you have need any additional information. I'm sorry for, you know, some problems with the connection, but it's.
Can we ask questions?
Yes, please.
Okay. So how are you finding companies are adjusting in Italy versus, you know, maybe France or some of the other countries?
Sorry?
How are you finding companies are adjusting? You know, like, let's say, for example, Italy versus France versus Belgium, maybe.
How they, you mean if they apply the same models, or if they share information?
Yeah, how are they, I would imagine if they're part of the same company, but just in different countries, they're sharing information.
They should apply the law, you know, the same law, which means that imagine that I buy something from a French-based company, and I buy it here. I'm from Italy, you know, and I buy here it from Italy. So I give the information for this service to the Italian subsidiary. And perhaps in order to give me the full service, they have to share this information with the French headquarters, okay? Mm-hmm. I should know it. I should know what they ask me, if they are all the information needed for the service I need, no additional information. I should know that they send this information to their main, you know, company in France. So they said that in the disclaimer, you know, we are asking your information. This information will be dealt from this, for this reason and these purposes. So I know why they're asking them. And in case you want to cancel the information, change them, revoke, you know, any type of usage, this is the address where you have to send your mail asking this. So it's also important that the transparency is on how they do it.
Okay.
And as I said, yes.
Is it possible to ask another question?
Yeah, yes, of course.
Wonderful. I deal with global companies, and so we're in the United States. However, our clients are worldwide, and so we're very concerned that we are not breaking any of the rules within the GDPR framework. But what is the advice for American companies who are global? And we are tracking information, we are analyzing information, we're distributing information across our different divisions and subsidiaries. How can we pull data back once we've gotten it?
Yeah.
I'm very confused as to how that could even happen. Even if you put out an email, what I've been doing recently just on, I can't seem to track where all the data goes.
And this is why you should start, of course, for a big companies with information spreading all over the world, it's not easy, I understand this. And I show you, this is why I show you the Google example. What I think it's important, it's that you do, and this is really asked from the law, that you do a proper risk analysis on the information that you want. So you can clearly say, okay, I collect this information because I need them for this service I have to do. I share them with these other subsidiaries or other companies. It also happens that in order to deliver a service, you have some external companies, so you do not do everything within your organization. So how I'm sure that, all the chain is protected, and I share only the information needed, so you do not send everything on me, but you just the 3 or 4 data that you need to share. And you have to clearly inform your user, whoever it is, a citizen or whatever, even of this, of what happens. The main aspect that this law wanted to address is strongly connected with the information of the person, So what was not acceptable from the European Commission was that I send you my information and I do not know what happens. Okay, you sell them, you send them to wherever you want, and so. So what is I would really strongly suggest is risk analysis. So whatever happens, you can show that it's best, and on the other side, correct information to the people that gives you the data. These are the 2 pillars, let's say, of this law. There are lots of aspects, lots of things, but the two pillars are risk analysis, so you show that you understand the processes that you put in place, and on the other side, the fact that you inform.
Thank you so much.
No, of course, you have to speak with a lawyer, but